Welcome to, this is FauxLawRadio, and I'm Jordan Fox. We have our guest today is Terence Maloy of Trademark Fabrication. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's awesome.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your background? What do you do?
Okay, well, I am a welder and a fabricator. I just recently launched my own company, so Trademark Fabrication. So that's the name of my company. And I just, I'm still trying to fill it out. It's a new thing, but I do a little bit of everything. If it comes to metal, everything, structural steel to ornate, ornamental iron, gates, fences. I've rebuilt people's travel trailers and rebuild the frames on cars and all kinds of stuff. Just, anything with metal, I typically enjoy doing. I like building things. That's kind of where I got started, I guess, is just fixing things.
Yeah, how did you get started?
Yeah, well, I grew up out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know, most people don't, even from Nevada, don't even know where it is, but I grew up around Alamo, Nevada. Real small. I actually grew up in I like to call it the suburbs of Alamo. I grew up in a place called Hico. It's just a farming community. So it's mostly just ranches and whatever, but where I grew up, people just, you don't have all the amenities, all the stores and everything around like we do here. So people just repair and fix their own stuff. And I was just kind of surrounded by that kind of environment. And so got started just, fixing farm equipment and building gates and fences and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I, moved down into Vegas and started working construction, doing that on some of the big buildings and for the casinos, doing a lot of like the ornamental and like brass and stainless work, and you see in a lot of the casinos and things like that. And I don't know, I've always had a passion I like building things. I like the opportunity to be creative and to work with my hands, and it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of progressed over the years and until I am now trying to run my own business doing the same thing. So it's been
How old were you when you first picked up a welding torch?
I think we were probably the first time I ever really tried it. I mean, when I was like a Boy Scout, probably like 12 or 11 or so, I always was surrounded by it and people doing it. So I always was fascinated by it. I don't know how many little boys that aren't fascinated by the idea of melting metal, creating fire. And I don't know, it's just something that it just appeals to you when you're little. But
Absolutely.
I don't think I really got into actually welding until I was probably about a freshman in high school. I started taking some welding classes and just had a knack for it, I guess. It just was something that I just tend to naturally pick up quickly, and I enjoyed it, and it was something I was good at, and so I just ran with it. And we actually had a really it's easy to be the cool teacher when you're a shop teacher, I guess, but like we had a really good shop teacher where I grew up, and he was one of the guys that he'd show you the basics, he'd let you just practice on it, but then he's like, listen, use your imagination, go out and build something, just come up with something you want to try to build and build it. If you need some help, talk to me, but otherwise just go out and be creative. And for someone like me, that was perfect, and it just kind of opened up a whole new world of opportunity for me. And so pretty young, early teens and whatever, I
Right.
started to take a passion for it. So
What was like the first thing you remember building or fixing or making that kind of hit you like, yeah, like this is where I want to be?
yeah, that's a good question. So I was always the kid who could like spend hours building things with Legos, and I never built, you go buy the little kits of Legos and they always have like the whatever the end product is supposed to be. Like we always threw those directions away. We never built those anyways. We just tried to build our own stuff. And so when I got into these shop classes, actually, one of the first things I tried to build, and it was probably a little bit ambitious for me, but I built I don't know if you know what a land sail is, or a land or wind yacht or whatever, but it's basically like a 3-wheeled cart with a sail that you take out on like the dry lake bed on a windy day and go cruising back
Uh-huh.
and forth. I had heard about them. I'd never actually seen one, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to try to build one. And so I just, right out of the gate, I tried my hand at building a land sail. And I'm not saying it was the greatest craftsmanship, and it took me a lot. And it was actually a challenging project because there's a lot of stuff that I had to figure out because I'd never used one, I'd never seen one. But I loved being just turned loose with basically whatever my imagination did to solve my problem and come up with it. And it actually, long story short, it took me about a year and a half to finish that project, but it actually worked. It worked really well. We took it out and cruised around, and it was actually a lot of fun. But it also, for me, I wasn't exactly a great student growing up. I didn't really love school. I mean, but the cool thing too with working on projects like that is I never really liked things like geometry and stuff. It was just kind of, it just didn't make sense to me. I didn't really care to sit and do it. But once I started
Right.
working on those, and then I started actually working with angles and trying to make things work and fit, all of a sudden the light bulb came on for me, and I started to understand geometry and trig and all these other things that like I
Uh-huh.
didn't do before. And then I started to gain a passion for like math and all these other things that it in a lot of ways it helped me in a lot of other ways as well. So it was good for me. But that
That's
was probably the
awesome.
first project that really kind of had the light bulb start coming on for me and like helped me start to see potential for stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, why don't you tell us then about your latest project that you've worked on?
Well, the latest project, I've actually been doing a lot of remodeling in my home right now, and so
Hmm.
I've been working on this actually this morning before I got on, but I'm building a hood to go over my kitchen stove. That's probably the latest project that I've been working on. So I've taken uh, for the main body of the hood, I'm taking an old wine barrel, cutting it down, and building a metal scoop around the bottom, and just kind of trying to tie it in and make it match the kitchen and whatever. So I don't know. I enjoy that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's probably my latest, I should say, because I've been working on it right before I got on here. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
So I know a little bit about you, Terrence. I'll reveal, but one of the things I think is interesting is you're a certified, or do you have to get a license? But you're an underwater welder as well.
Yeah, yeah. I got into underwater welding. So I was working construction, and I was working on a lot of the casinos and stuff back in early 2000s. And then when the housing bubble burst and the economy tanked in like 2008 and all that,
Right.
it really hurt construction here in Vegas. And so once we finished up that big city center project and the Cosmopolitan and those casinos on the strip that we were building at the time, there just wasn't really anything going on. And I had actually always had an interest because I love being around the water. I love welding and building things. So the idea of being able to do both together has always been something that interested me. I found out about that when I was in like an 8th grade in a careers class, and someone told me there was such a thing as underwater welding, and I was
Uh-huh.
mind blown. I was like, that's something I've got to try at some point. So, anyways, when the economy tanked in 2008 and construction just kind of came to a screeching halt here, I talked to my wife and I said, this is something that I've always wanted to try. I've always wanted to get into and at least fill it out. And this is probably the best time to try it because there's nothing going on here. I need to do something different now. I might as well give it a shot. So yeah, we went out to Charleston, South Carolina. I went to school there, got into the commercial diving certified, and then I worked for a company out of Utah and traveled around the country doing a lot of that kind of work on bridges and dams and all kinds of stuff. And it was a pretty cool experience. I really enjoyed it. But
So I saw you on Instagram, on your trademark fabrication Instagram, which we'll get the details about at the end, but it looked like you were diving in some kind of a giant vat of milk or something like that. Is that what that was?
yeah, so in the last spring, when everything was shut down because of the pandemic,
Uh-huh.
I was working at the casinos, and we got let go from the shows because obviously those aren't happening. So I had some free time, so the company called me up to ask if I could help them with a project, and we went up to Logan, Utah, up to a food creamery up there. I'm not should I say the name of it? I don't know. Schreiber
Sure,
Foods.
you can.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
the Schreiber Foods up in Logan, Utah. And so what happens is they have these big holding tanks where the waste products from the processing go out, and you can't just dump those types of materials into the city's treatments facility. So it has to go through a process of aeration where the bacteria and stuff can break it down to a safe level that it can be processed through the city water system. Anyways, that system wasn't working, so they had this big tank of all this basically wasted dairy product in this
Oh, is
big,
that what it was?
and I don't know how many gallons it was. It was probably like it was probably like 500,000 gallon tank. It was pretty big, but all that stuff was just sitting in there, and it couldn't be processed because their aeration system wasn't working. So we had to dive down into that basically dairy
Oh,
product, and yeah, and you can't see anything, so there's no visibility, no light penetrates, so it's just black. I mean, so most of the time you just close your eyes anyways because you can't see, and so we just crawling around on the bottom, filling and finding all the little. They have like these aeration pods that just make little fine air bubbles once they're energized, and what it does is it puts enough oxygen into the product and keeps everything moving so that the bacterial life can break it down. Anyways, so there's like a spider web of pipes on the bottom of this thing with like thousands of these little pods, and we just had to go through by feel and go find all these pods, take all the old ones off, and put new ones on, and yeah, so it was basically diving in a massive tank of rotten milk. So yeah, it's definitely given me some unique opportunities. So
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and you're working blind on top of it,
yeah,
just trying to all do it by feel.
yeah,
And I guess at the end of the day, it worked again.
it was working when we left. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
I can't
that's awesome.
speak for now, but yeah, no, we got it all fixed. It was a success. Yeah.
That's great. So, okay, so tell me about Trademark Fabrication. When did you decide to start that up? When did you get it going? How's that going?
All right. Well, yeah. So I've been, I mean, usually like for years, I do a lot of fabrication work just kind of on the side, people who need gates and
Uh-huh.
stuff. So I've kind of always keep busy with those types of projects. But like I said earlier in the spring, when this whole pandemic hit, I was working at the casinos. I was working at the shows. I was actually working underwater. I was a scuba diver and a carpenter for one of the Cirque shows on the
Hmm.
strip. But they shut shows down. So then all of a sudden we
Yeah.
found ourselves laid off without a regular source or regular job or whatever. So I just thought to myself, I've kind of been kicking around the idea of going out on my own and creating my own fabrication business. Once again, I thought, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to get a better time than now to just try it
Right.
out. And so I started a little slow. I just started doing a little more side work at first. And then, yeah, actually in September, September, I believe, is when I officially went ahead and filed all my paperwork and got my business license and got everything squared away and started out. And it's been good. I know this has been kind of a tough year for a lot of people. But in a lot of ways, for me, it's actually been a pretty good year. I've been pretty blessed, so we're happy about that. And yeah, so I've been doing a lot of gates. I've been doing a lot of just repairs for people. I actually started doing a lot of work for one of the creameries here in town, Anderson
Uh-huh.
Dairy. I do a lot of stainless steel work over there, which keeps me pretty busy. And yeah, it's been good. So we're always looking for opportunities to do fabrication, different types of metal work. I like a variety of things. I try not to get too pigeonholed into one way of doing or one type of work. I like to keep
Right.
my options open a little bit. So always
So
looking for things.
yeah, how have you been finding your jobs? How have you been, is it word of mouth? How have you been advertising?
So I mostly get my work by word of mouth. I would say most of the work I do is just from people I know or people I've done work for, kind of telling others. And I've been doing it long enough, and I've worked for enough people around town that there's quite a few people who at least know of me.
Right.
So that's it. But then I've also been using social media a little bit. I mean, I'm not great at it. I'm still kind of new to Instagram and some of these things, so I'm still learning how to properly use social media. But it's actually helped quite a bit getting, at least let people see some of the stuff you do. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people really have a hard time understanding some of the things that I do on a daily basis. So being able to just post pictures every now and again, I think has been helpful for people to see and then gain some interest there. So
And what's your Instagram handle so people can look you up and find you?
it's just trademark fabrication.
Easy.
So yeah,
Easy.
nothing complicated.
Yeah, and if anyone's listening to this, you should really check it out. It's pretty work, and we'll put a link. We'll have Sarah put a link in the. We'll put this on YouTube. We'll have Sarah put a link.
Yeah.
So find it.
The one thing I'm not that good at is it's all of this is a learning curve. You're always learning as you go. And the one thing that I've learned is it's important to take pictures of stuff, because I tend to not be very good at that kind of thing. I historically speaking, I don't really take a lot of pictures of a lot of the things I do because I'm just busy working and
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how to take a good picture, because I'm one of those guys, like I'll look at something, I'm like, oh, that looks really neat, and I'll take out my phone and snap a picture, and then I look at the picture, I'm like, man, that picture's terrible. Like, even I have a hard time telling what that is in the picture. No one else is gonna know what that is, and so
Right.
I tend to not post as much. So I need to get better at that. That would help a lot. But yeah, it's something I'm working on. But
That's awesome. Well, so tell me something else. What's if you could share one piece of wisdom or one lesson that you've learned in your career or from starting a business or going through what with other people, maybe a young person or whoever, what would it be?
well, when you ask me to share some wisdom, yeah, it implies that I've got some. So let me see what I can bring up. But I don't know. I think it's just important to just find something that you can have a passion for. I think a lot of times it's really easy to just kind of go with the crowd or go with the flow, or like, so I don't know. I guess part of the reason I ended up getting so much into the welding early on was because I wasn't really a big fan of going to school when I was young. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the way for everyone, but like I didn't really have a lot of interest in going to college. I just wanted to do things. I found something that I enjoyed, and I prefer to pursue that. And I have gone to some trade programs and different things, which have really helped. And I think that stuff's important. But I think sometimes we kind of push people into a certain way of doing things. Like, I just go to college and then you'll figure it out there or whatever. And I don't know if that's always the right course for a lot of people. I don't think it would have been the right course for me. And so I just think it's important for people to find things that they're kind of passionate about and find ways to use that passion to, build a career and do things that they enjoy. And I'm not saying that every day, just because you do something you enjoy, that every day is always going to be super fun. But as long as it's something that you have a passion for, it's a lot easier to soldier through those slumps and then just enjoy what you do on a daily basis. At least that's my view.
Yeah, hey, thanks for sharing. That makes sense. And I think before we wrap up here, I think I'd regret it if I didn't ask you about those two clubs hanging behind your head on the wall there. What's
Oh
the
yeah,
story with those?
It's not really a much of a story, to be honest. We went to Fiji a few years ago, and they have all over the place. They have these like Fijian war clubs that they are selling all the time, and I just thought they were really neat. We were in the middle of remodeling our house, and I was redoing like the fireplace and everything. So this is my dining room. It's my fireplace behind me. And I just thought, man, those would look really cool hanging over my fireplace. And so I picked them up and brought them home, and I still think they look cool hanging on my fireplace. At least I like them, so that's all that matters. But
Oh,
yeah,
I agree.
just something fun. You know, we like to travel, so sometimes it's fun to pick up things and places that you travel, just kind of mementos, you know, to remember.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Terrence. Thanks for being on FauxLawRadio. I really appreciate it. I had a great time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and everybody, make sure you check out the Trademark Fabrication Instagram. There's some good work. And if you need a new gate or light fixtures or anything in your house decorative, that's who you need to talk to.
Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome.